Life, good old Bethel. This one's cool because originals in in B, but we're playing it in C, and that's actually a better key for, like I said, guitar, piano, bass too. Drummers, they can play in any key you want, which is awesome. Okay, so back to life and my notes. I guess I'm going to pick C. But yeah, let me look at my notes really quick. So it starts with the chorus, which is actually interesting, right? It's a great teaching moment if you're in a situation where you want to teach your congregation a song, and obviously if a song starts with the chorus, that's a really easy way to start. But yeah, so that's not the most common thing that happens with worship songs, but when it does, it's like I said, it's a nice kind of like teaching moment. The first half and the end of the second chorus is only three sets of four. So that same situation that we were talking about earlier with what was it, the first song? All Hail King Jesus. And so that being said, same type of deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1. Phil Wickham actually does that most often in his verses as well. And if you can do it right musically, people won't really notice. But as a musician or even a singer, you do want to be mindful of those things because you just don't want to get tripped up, especially if you're leading it. I've found that a lot of either the next generation or just people that don't have enough experience in a worship environment, they'll almost like look around waiting for others to communicate to them that they're going to now switch and it's okay. And when you're confident about your worship, it's there's no hesitation. You go and you do it, and then worst case scenario, the band doesn't go with you, and then you just kind of ad lib it really quick and then come in. But to wait and looking and waiting, like if I'm talking to the worship leaders here, that's kind of what we're there to do, is point the band in the right direction, and even giving cues, having signals, or just even looks at the MD, the music director, whoever that might be, is really kind of, it's important. But just recognizing, hey, this section's a little bit shorter than normal. So the normal rule of, everything is either 2 times or 4 times doesn't really apply in that regard. I actually heard a cool quote today from an artist. His name's Kiefer, not to be confused with Kiefer Sutherland, but his name's just Kiefer. And he was mentioning that when we write music, even back in the hundreds and hundreds of years ago, maybe Beethoven even, they never wrote music with using music theory. The music theory came from the music. So when we write things, even as worshipers, we're going to write things in a way that is is going to be enjoyable and also memorable. But at no point are you going to say to yourself, well, we can't do this because music theory says this. It's like, well, no, actually, if it makes sense in music, or I should say this, if it makes sense to your ear and your heart and your soul and your mind, there's a good chance that the theory will follow. So don't ever be afraid to experiment, try new things. There's another interesting guitar player that I follow on YouTube. I honestly can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he does a lot of like metal guitar riffs and stuff. But he actually encourages his guys that he talks to do the same thing. He's like, hey, we know that metal and rock music, or honestly any style, it becomes redundant. Everything has probably already been written. We're just reusing the same things over and over again and just putting our name on it, our brand or our sound. And so with that being said, it's very easy to get caught up in the, oh, this one chord that we end on here, not the one chord, but this chord that we could end on here is it's normal. It's very easy to the ear and the listener to resolve a song this way, or to go to a section by doing this change. And he encourages everyone to just don't do that. Challenge yourself, try to do something different. And then if you obviously can't, you're beating a dead horse, then okay, fine, do what works. But at no point are we going to create new music at this point. You know, we've written everything that probably will ever be written. It's just a matter of, is it being played by a certain instrument? Is it being played by a computer? Or is it being played by, you know, live in a live audience, you know? So but yeah, just something to think about. Um but yes, we had the 3 beat thing in the verse. This is the song that has 3 verses: 1 verse, 2 verse, and 3 verse. So that was funny to me because as I was listening to it, I was like, okay, well, it almost feels like the third verse could actually be like the bridge, sort of. Like, I don't know. It just felt like you were already probably what, 3 to 4 minutes into the song. You know, 9 times out of 10, at least with songs on the radio, like secular music, you've got at 2:30 of a song, you're going into the bridge. And that's kind of, you know, familiar and or common with worship as well. The only thing that we do in worship songs is then we'll extend, you know, the bridge will go on for a long time, and then we'll go back to the chorus, and then maybe, you know, do a tag or another ad lib or some other type of spontaneous thing. But the whole point with this song that I appreciated was, you know, they did go through the motions. They went through all the verse, chorus, verse, chorus. They do this tag in between the verse 3 and the chorus, but then they go to their bridge and they really build it up. So I put here bridge 2 with 2 different endings instead of making a bridge 3. So yeah, so when I write charts, there's not a lot of times that I try to repeat what looks like the same thing, right? So for example, if bridge 2 says you're going to the 1, the second line you're going to 6 minor to the 4, I don't really feel like it's necessary for me to copy all that again just to change the 4 to a 5. So sometimes what I do when I'm making charts is I'll just parentheses it and I'll put a 5 in between, and that basically just means, hey, either occasionally or every other or the last time, you're gonna, instead of end on the 4, you're gonna end on the 5. And the 5 is like we said before, is a good landing note, a good landing chord to hit when you want to go back to the 1. And it just helps resolve. It wants you to resolve, versus if you landed on the 4, you're still continuing, it's still wanting to go somewhere. And it's ironic that like music can do that, like you can actually formulate it this way. But it's common, it's very common, and you'll hear it in tons of songs. So but yeah, back to life, nothing crazy there. Pretty straightforward, other than that, you know, that verse thing and the fact that there's 3 verses. But yeah,